My sister said I don't need my two-bedroom condo since I'm single, so she tried to move in while I was at work. It ended with her arrest. Hey friends. Got a sec? Drop your thoughts in the comments and hit subscribe. It's quick for you, but it really means a lot to us. Alright, let's dive into today's story. Original post. I never thought I'd be writing one of these posts, but here I am at 2 a.m., sitting in my living room, staring at the text messages from my sister that have completely upended my sense of family dynamics. I'm Blake, 31M, and I need to know if I'm losing my mind or if my family has collectively decided that boundaries don't exist anymore. Let me give you the background. I work as a software engineer for a tech company in Seattle. 5 years ago, after countless nights of ramen and shared apartments with questionable roommates, I finally saved enough for a down payment on a two-bedroom condo in a decent neighborhood. Nothing fancy, just 1,100 square feet with a small balcony overlooking the city, updated kitchen, and most importantly, it's mine. I've spent years making it exactly how I want it. The home office set up for remote work, the living room entertainment system I saved for months to buy, even the kitchen organized precisely how I like it for my weekend cooking projects. My sister Allison, 27F, is getting married next month to her boyfriend Tyler, 29M. They've been together for 2 years, and honestly, Tyler seems like a decent guy. He works in marketing, she's a part-time yoga instructor and influencer, she has about 15K followers, which she considers practically famous. They currently live in a studio apartment on the other side of town, about 500 square feet, street level, next to a pretty busy intersection. 3 weeks ago, Allison called me with what she described as the most amazing idea ever. She said, and I'm quoting directly because I wrote it down in disbelief, "Blake, you know how Tyler and I are starting our new life together? Well, we were thinking, you're single, you work from home most of the time, and you don't really entertain. We really need a proper place to begin our married life, and your apartment would be perfect. We could trade. You take our studio, we take your condo. It's actually better for you because you'd have lower utility bills and less space to clean." I genuinely thought she was joking. I laughed and said something like, "Yeah, right, good one." But the silence on the other end told me everything. She was serious. Dead serious. When I said absolutely not, that I'd worked hard for my place and had no intention of giving it up, she got upset. Not angry, but that manipulative kind of upset where she makes you feel like you're the bad guy. "I thought family helped each other," she said. "Tyler's family is giving us $10,000 for the wedding. His sister is planning the entire bachelorette party. And my own brother can't even help with something that would cost him nothing." Cost me nothing. Cost me nothing. I tried explaining that it would literally cost me my home, the equity I've built, my entire lifestyle. Her response? "You're being dramatic. It's just an apartment. Tyler deserves to start his married life in a nice place. He's been so patient with living in that tiny studio. Since then, it's escalated. Our parents have gotten involved, and while they're not explicitly saying I should trade apartments, they keep making comments like, 'Family makes sacrifices for each other,' and 'Your sister's wedding is such an important milestone,' and my personal favorite from my mom, 'You know, Blake, when you eventually get married, I'm sure Allison would do the same for you.' The thing is, I wouldn't want her to. I wouldn't want anyone to give up their home for my wedding. That's insane. But apparently, I'm the crazy one here. Allison has started telling extended family that I'm sabotaging her happiness and being selfish with assets I don't even need. She actually used the word assets, like my home is some kind of excess wealth I'm hoarding. The wedding is in 4 weeks. Every family interaction has become about this. Allison sent me listings for studio apartments just to see what's available for you, and even scheduled a viewing for one without telling me. I found out when the landlord called to confirm. Tyler, who had been mostly quiet about this, finally chimed in last week with a text saying he was disappointed in my lack of support for Allison's happiness. Here's what really gets me. I've been generous with my sister her whole life. I helped pay for her yoga certification. I've given her money when she was between jobs. I've let her crash at my place countless times when she fought with roommates. But somehow, not giving her my entire home makes me the villain. My friends think this is absolutely insane and tell me to stand firm. But when your entire family is looking at you like you're the reason your sister's marriage is starting off wrong, it's hard not to second-guess yourself. They've even started suggesting compromises, like I could stay there for just a year, or we could do a 6-month trade to try it out. Am I really being unreasonable here? Is there some wedding tradition I'm unaware of where siblings hand over their real estate? Because I'm starting to feel like I'm living in an alternate reality where property ownership means nothing and wedding entitlement has reached new heights. Update 1, 2 weeks later. I can't believe I'm back here writing this, but things have escalated to a level I never thought possible with my family. I want to thank everyone who responded to my original post. Your comments gave me the confidence to stand firm, and I need that more than ever now because what happened yesterday has me questioning everything about my family. After my original post, I tried to go low contact with Allison. I sent her a clear text stating that my apartment was not up for discussion and that I'd appreciate if we could move past this and focus on her wedding. I thought maybe if I just held firm, she'd eventually accept it and move on. I was wrong. So wrong. Yesterday was Saturday. I'd gone to the gym in the morning, grabbed coffee with a friend, and did some errands. I was gone for maybe 4 hours total. When I got back to my building, I noticed my mom's car in the visitor parking. Strange, but not alarming. She occasionally drops by, though usually she texts first. I walked into my apartment, and what I saw made me freeze in the doorway. There were boxes everywhere. My boxes. My books were being packed. My electronics were stacked on the dining table. My kitchen appliances were wrapped in bubble wrap. And there, in the middle of it all, were my mother, my sister Allison, Tyler, and 2 people I didn't recognize, who turned out to be Tyler's brother Marcus and his wife Jennifer. I stood there for probably 10 seconds in complete shock before I managed to say, "What the hell is going on?" My mom, sweet as pie, said, "Oh, Blake, we thought you'd be gone longer. We're just helping you get organized for the move. Allison found you the most adorable studio, and the landlord said you could move in next week." I cannot adequately describe the rage I felt in that moment. It was like something out of a nightmare where everyone around you is acting normal while doing something absolutely insane. They were packing my belongings. They had somehow gotten into my apartment. Turns out my mom had kept the spare key I'd given her for emergencies, and were systematically dismantling my life. I told them to stop immediately and get out. That's when Allison started crying. Not just tears, but full-on sobbing. "I knew you'd react like this," she wailed. "We're just trying to help. The wedding is in 2 weeks, and Tyler and I need time to get settled before then. You're making this so much harder than it needs to be." Tyler stepped forward, trying to be the voice of reason, and said, "Look, Blake, we've already put down the deposit on the studio for you. It's actually really nice, exposed brick, good natural light. You'll love it once you see it." They'd put down a deposit on an apartment for me, without my knowledge or consent. I told them they had exactly 5 minutes to put everything back and leave, or I'd call the police. My mom gasped like I'd slapped her. "You'd call the police on your own family? Blake, what has gotten into you?" Marcus, Tyler's brother, who I'd met maybe twice before, had the audacity to say, "Dude, you're being really weird about this. It's just temporary until they can afford something better." Temporary? This was the first I'd heard about it being temporary. I asked how long temporary was, and Tyler said probably just 2 or 3 years, until they saved enough for a house. 2 or 3 years. They expected me to live in a 500-square-foot studio for years so they could live in my condo. I pulled out my phone and started dialing 911. That's when everyone suddenly started moving. Mom said they should go and let Blake calm down. Allison was still sobbing, saying I was ruining her wedding and her life. Jennifer, who hadn't said a word until then, muttered something about some people not understanding family values. It took them about 10 minutes to leave, with Allison taking photos of my apartment on her way out to show the decorator. Apparently, she'd already hired someone to redesign my space for her new married life. After they left, I immediately changed my locks. I called a locksmith who came within an hour. Best $300 I've ever spent. Then I installed a Ring doorbell camera, because clearly, I can't trust my family anymore. The aftermath has been intense. My phone hasn't stopped. My dad, who was at golf during this whole incident, called me horrified at what they'd done but then added, "Though you could have handled it more diplomatically." My mom is telling everyone I threatened to have her arrested. Allison posted on Facebook that her brother chose property over family, and that she's heartbroken that some people don't understand the meaning of love and sacrifice. The comments on her post are split. Some people are supporting her, saying family should come first. Others are pointing out that what she did was literally breaking and entering. One of my cousins commented, "Wait, you broke into his apartment?" And Allison responded that she had permission from my mother, as if that somehow makes it okay. Tyler's family has gotten involved now too. His parents called me to say they were disappointed in how I handled the situation and that they thought I'd be more mature. Mature? They broke into my home. Here's the kicker. Yesterday evening, Allison sent me a Venmo request for $1,800 for the deposit on your new apartment that we had to forfeit because of your selfishness. I'm sitting here surrounded by half-packed boxes, in my apartment with new locks, wondering how my family became these people. Or maybe they were always these people, and I just never had something they wanted badly enough. The wedding is in 2 weeks. I'm genuinely not sure if I'm still invited or if I even want to go. My entire family feels like strangers to me right now. Update 2, 3 days before the wedding. I need to update you all because the situation has somehow managed to get even more surreal. I'm writing this from a hotel room, and no, I didn't lose my apartment, but the reason I'm here is almost too ridiculous to believe. After my last update, I thought things would calm down. The wedding was approaching, and I assumed Allison would be too busy with preparations to continue this apartment nonsense. I decided not to attend the wedding. I sent a polite decline to the RSVP and transferred $500 to their gift registry as a peace offering, even though I didn't feel I owed them anything. 2 days ago, Thursday morning, I woke up to 47 missed calls. 47. They started at 4 a.m. Most were from numbers I didn't recognize. My voicemail was full. My first thought was that someone had died. I listened to the first voicemail, and it was from someone named Patricia, saying, "Mr. Blake? This is Patricia from Moving Solutions. We're scheduled to arrive at your apartment at 7 a.m. to complete your move. Just confirming the address." My blood went cold. I called the number back immediately. Patricia explained that my wife had scheduled an emergency move for today, that she'd explained I was unexpectedly traveling for work and she needed to handle the move herself. They'd been paid in full $3,000 for a white glove service where they pack everything and move it. While on the phone with Patricia, trying to cancel this insane situation, my doorbell camera started going off. I checked the app, and there was my sister, my mother, my dad, who I thought was on my side, Tyler, and 3 people in matching moving company shirts. I spoke through the camera, telling them to leave immediately, that I'd already called the company to cancel. Allison held up papers to the camera. She had created a fake lease agreement with my forged signature, proving I'd agreed to move. She'd forged my signature on a lease agreement. I called 911. This time, I didn't hesitate. While on the phone with dispatch, I watched through the camera as the movers looked increasingly uncomfortable. They could clearly hear me on the phone with the police, and the head mover was arguing with Tyler, showing him something on his phone, probably their company policy about disputes. The police arrived within 15 minutes. Through the camera, I watched the officers review the paperwork, talk to everyone, and then Allison started her sobbing routine. But these officers weren't having it. One of them came to the camera and asked me to come down to sort this out. I went down, and the scene was almost comedic. Allison in her pre-wedding casual wear, crying about her special day. My parents looking mortified. The movers standing awkwardly by their truck. Tyler trying to explain to the police that this was just a family misunderstanding. The officer asked me straight up, "Did you sign this lease agreement?"
No.
"Did you hire this moving company?"
No.
"Do you want these people removed from the property?"
Yes.
The officer then turned to Allison and said the words I'll remember forever, "Ma'am, forging a signature on a legal document is a felony. You're looking at potential fraud charges." The way Allison's face went from tearful to terrified was something to behold. She immediately started backtracking, saying it was a miscommunication and that she thought I'd agreed verbally. My mom jumped in, saying it was all a big misunderstanding and surely we didn't need to involve the law. The moving company was pissed. The head mover told Tyler they'd be keeping the $3,000 as a cancellation fee since they'd been hired under fraudulent circumstances and could potentially face legal issues. Tyler started arguing, and the mover pulled out his phone to call their company lawyer. I told the officers I wanted to file a report but wouldn't press charges if everyone left immediately and agreed to never come to my property again. The officers made everyone verbally agree and said if they returned, it would be considered trespassing and harassment. As they were leaving, my dad finally spoke to me. "Blake, you're tearing this family apart." "No, Dad," I said. "Allison did that when she decided she was entitled to my home." The aftermath has been swift and brutal. Allison uninvited me from the wedding via text. "Don't bother coming. You're dead to me." My mom sent a long message about how I've ruined your sister's special weekend, and that she's never been more disappointed. But here's where it gets interesting. Tyler's family is furious, not at me, but at Tyler and Allison. Apparently, the $3,000 for the movers came from the wedding fund his parents had contributed to. His mom called me to apologize and said she had no idea things had gotten this insane. She also let slip that this isn't the first time Allison has pulled something like this. Apparently, she tried to get Tyler's sister to give them her car as an engagement gift because she could afford another one. I'm in a hotel because I genuinely don't feel safe in my own home right now. I've already started the process of getting a restraining order, and I've had to take time off work to deal with this mess. My boss has been understanding, But having to explain that your family tried to illegally evict you from your own home is not a conversation I ever expected to have. The wedding is in 3 days. I've heard through the grapevine, my cousin is still texting me updates, that Allison is telling everyone I called the cops on her for no reason and that I'm mentally unstable. She's apparently deleted all her Facebook posts about the situation after people started calling her out for the forgery admission. I've also learned that they never actually had a backup plan for housing. They were so convinced I'd cave that they'd given notice on their studio apartment. They're now scrambling to find somewhere to live after the wedding, and hotels are booking up due to some tech conference in town. I'm exhausted, angry, and honestly heartbroken that my family would go this far. But I'm also relieved that I stood my ground. Your comments on my previous posts gave me the strength to not cave to this insanity. I'll update after the wedding with whatever fallout comes from this disaster. Final update, 2 months later. I debated whether to write this final update because honestly, I'm exhausted from this whole saga. But you've all been so supportive, and the conclusion to this story is so absurd that I feel like I need to share it. The wedding happened without me, obviously. From what I heard from my cousin Sarah, the only family member still talking to me normally, it was a tense affair. Several family members were asking where I was, and the official story kept changing. I was sick, I was traveling for work, I had a mental health crisis. The truth eventually came out when Tyler's mom, after a few glasses of wine, told everyone at the reception about the forgery and attempted illegal eviction. The week after the wedding, I thought things would finally calm down. I was wrong. I came home from work to find an envelope slipped under my door, not mailed, but hand-delivered. Inside was a letter from a lawyer. Not a cease and desist or anything official, but a demand letter stating that I owed Allison and Tyler $15,000 for emotional distress, wedding damages, and temporary housing costs because they'd had to live in an Airbnb after their studio lease ended. I took the letter to my own lawyer. Yes, I had to hire a lawyer because of this insanity, who laughed and said it was basically legal toilet paper. The lawyer who wrote it turned out to be Tyler's friend who was in his first year of law school. Not even a real lawyer. But here's where things get truly unbelievable. 3 weeks after the wedding, I got a call from my building's management company. They said there had been some confusion with my apartment and that the new tenants were having issues. What new tenants? I still lived there. Turns out, Allison had created fake documents showing she was the owner of my apartment and had tried to rent it out on Craigslist. She'd actually shown it to people while I was at work. She still somehow had a spare key. Maybe she'd made copies before I changed the locks, I don't know. She'd taken deposits from 3 different couples, totaling $7,500, promising them they could move in on the first of the month. One couple had actually shown up with a moving truck. I filed a police report immediately. This wasn't just family drama anymore. This was straight-up fraud involving innocent people. The detective assigned to the case told me this was one of the most bizarre family disputes he'd ever seen. The investigation moved quickly once the other victims got involved. Allison had used her real name and phone number on the listings. She's not the brightest criminal mastermind, and the paper trail was extensive. She'd even created a fake property management company website to look more legitimate. During the investigation, more came out. Allison and Tyler were in serious financial trouble. They'd overspent on the wedding by nearly $20,000, expecting to recoup it by living rent-free in my apartment. Tyler had been laid off 2 months before the wedding and hadn't told anyone. Allison's influencer career was making maybe $200 a month. They were drowning in debt and saw my apartment as their life raft. Last week, Allison was arrested for fraud and identity theft. The amount she'd stolen, combined with the forged documents, made it a felony case. She spent 2 nights in jail before my parents bailed her out, draining their retirement fund to do so. The family explosion was nuclear. My mom called me sobbing, not to apologize, but to beg me to drop the charges. She's your sister. She made a mistake. She was desperate. I had to explain that it wasn't up to me. The other victims were pressing charges too. The 3 couples she'd scammed were furious and wanted their money back plus damages. Tyler filed for divorce 2 weeks ago. Apparently, he claims he didn't know about the rental scam and wants to distance himself from Allison's legal troubles. His family completely cut her off, and his mom sent me a long apology letter and a $500 Amazon gift card, which was unnecessary but appreciated. Here's the real kicker. Allison is now living with my parents in my childhood bedroom. At 27, married for less than 2 months, facing felony charges, and completely broke. My parents are barely speaking to me, saying I've destroyed our family, and that I should have just given her the apartment to avoid all this. Yes, you read that right. Even after everything, the breaking and entering, the forgery, the fraud, the arrest, they still think I should have just given her my home. My cousin Sarah told me that at a recent family dinner, My aunt asked my parents why Allison couldn't just get a job and an apartment like everyone else. My mom apparently responded that Allison was too creative and special for regular work, and that I had destroyed her spirit. I've gone no contact with my parents and Allison. I've had to block extended family members who keep reaching out to tell me to forgive and forget, or to think about what this is doing to your mother. I've also had to install additional security cameras and change my locks again, just to be safe. My therapist, yes, I started therapy because of this, says my family has always enabled Allison and I was just the first person to say no. She helped me understand that their reaction isn't about me, it's about their own inability to accept that their golden child is actually a criminal. The legal case is ongoing. Allison's court date is next month. The prosecutor says she'll likely get probation and have to pay restitution, but there's a chance of jail time given the amount of money and the identity theft. The three couples are also suing her civilly, and Tyler is claiming she forged his signature on loan documents, trying to save himself. As for me, I'm doing okay. I still have my apartment. I've made some new friends through a hiking group I joined to get away from the drama. Work has been supportive, though having to explain why I needed time off for court appearances has been awkward. I'm dating someone new who thinks this whole story is insane. She's right. The saddest part? I found out last week that Allison is pregnant.
Yeah.
She apparently found out right after Tyler filed for divorce. So now there's going to be a child in the middle of this mess, raised by my enabling parents and a mother with a criminal record. I sometimes wonder if I could have handled this differently. Should I have been more diplomatic at the start? Could I have shut this down without it escalating to arrests and divorce? But then I remember that they literally broke into my home, forged legal documents, and committed fraud against innocent people. I didn't escalate it, they did. So that's the conclusion to this insane saga. I kept my apartment, lost my family, and learned that sometimes the trash takes itself out. To everyone who told me to stand firm and not cave to the emotional manipulation, thank you. You helped me see that I wasn't crazy, that what they were asking was absolutely insane, and that family doesn't mean you have to accept abuse. To anyone dealing with similar family entitlement issues, document everything. Change your locks. Don't give in to emotional manipulation. And remember, no is a complete sentence. I won't be updating again unless something major happens at the court case. I'm ready to move on with my life and leave this insanity in the past where it belongs. Thank you all for following this journey. Your support meant more than you know. Edit to final update. I know I said I wouldn't update again, but the court hearing was yesterday and I had to share. Allison pleaded guilty to fraud and got 18 months probation, 200 hours of community service, and has to pay $7,500 in restitution. She showed up to court 7 months pregnant, and her lawyer tried to use that for sympathy. The judge wasn't having it and actually said, being pregnant doesn't excuse defrauding multiple families out of thousands of dollars. My parents were there, and my mom tried to approach me. Court security had to intervene when she wouldn't leave me alone. She kept saying, "Your sister is pregnant, Blake. You're going to be an uncle." As if that somehow erases everything. Tyler wasn't there. Turns out he moved back to his parents' house in Portland and is starting over. The divorce was finalized last month. The prosecutor told me after that this was actually one of the more straightforward fraud cases they'd handled because Allison documented everything herself. Texts, emails, the fake website. She basically created a perfect evidence trail. After court, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. It was Allison, from a new phone. "I hope you're happy. You've ruined my life and my baby's life. I'll never forgive you." I didn't respond. I just blocked the number and went home to my apartment, where I had dinner with my girlfriend and didn't think about my family for the rest of the night. Life is good when you remove toxic people from it, even if those people share your DNA.